we're going to have today is with regards to sectoral and thematic funds. Now, they often attract investors during market trends and big themes, but do they actually deliver better returns than broader markets, or let's say from a perspective of market indices? In 2025, several themes captured investors' attention, but performance hasn't always matched expectations. To break down what really worked and what didn't, we are joined by Prableen Bajpai, who is the founder of FinFix Research and Analytics. Prableen, great to have you with us. Let me begin by asking, how many sectoral and thematic funds actually managed to outperform the Nifty 50 or Nifty 500 in 2025, or for that matter, against the benchmarks?
Hi, Marma. Absolutely. I think thematics and sectoral funds have been, attracting a lot of inflows. And when it comes to returns, I think tough years like 2025 actually paint a very different picture. So let's just take a look at how the sectoral indices first moved. So overall, Nifty 50, we know that it gave, after all the ups and downs during the year, gave us 10.5% returns. In terms of sectors, if we see the Nifty indices, we saw out of the 17 major indices that we have, 9 outperformed, and there were 8 which lagged Nifty 50. Out of those, Mahima, which lagged Nifty 50, we had the consumption index, which was in positive with about 8% returns. We had the pharma and the healthcare indices, which were in the 2 to 3% range in negative. And of course, the major falls were seen across indices such as the media. Then we saw IT, we saw consumer durables. And of course, we also saw reality index pretty down in the year to 2025. Amongst what performed amongst the Nifty indices, just to give a perspective of how, then returns, it would reflect on the returns of the schemes. We saw that, of course, PSU, the bank index, that performed, it was about 3 times of how much Nifty has performed during the year, followed by metals, auto, and defense. And of course, within PSU, we saw some of, these players, the government banks like the Indian Bank, Canara Bank, Bank of India, of course, give phenomenal returns even within the metal index and auto. We saw, especially the two-wheeler, some of the companies such as the Hero Motocorp, we saw TVS, they really gave us very good returns in the 50 to 60% range. So all of that hasn't really got reflected when we are looking at the themes. When we are looking at overall 232 schemes now, Mahima, out of them, out of the 232 schemes which we have, we see that 37 did not complete a 1-year period in 2025. So now we are just looking at 195 schemes, and out of them, 22.5% outperformed Nifty 50. That is about 44 schemes. And the number of schemes which didn't outperform Nifty 50 reduces to 77%. And of course, if we're looking at slightly higher outperformance here, Mahima, what we see that beyond a 3% outperformance against Nifty 50, only 15% of the sectoral thematic schemes were able to outperform. And overall, roughly 64 schemes closed the year 2025 with negative. So out of these 232, I think the number of outperformance has been very thin. And of course, 2025 overall has been a very tough year for the markets.
For sure. But a lot of your insights that you've given prove that, if you are entering a thematic fund or a sectoral fund, it has to be with a lot of research that you get in, and you should know when to get out as well, right? Because 77% of them have not given returns at all to the investors. And that, is a big statement for people to understand as to why, you should think twice before entering into these funds. And also because a lot of these were NFOs, right? And a lot of people have gone ahead and subscribed to these NFOs. So yeah, this is something that you should keep in mind. But the other aspect, Prableen, is that a lot of people look at it in a way that since these were loss-making in 2025, should they be still, kind of be in your portfolio to make sure that, you set off your losses against your profits in terms of taxation? Is that the right thing to do?
Actually, Mahima, if we extend this 1-year period, let's say to a 5-year period, then what we see that we have roughly 94 schemes for our analysis, and 89 out of them actually did outperform against Nifty 50 over a 5-year period, which then we are talking from 2021 onwards.
Okay.
But of course, what you say is absolutely true, because I think most of us lack the patience, and then there is that growing discomfort as well when we start seeing our returns in negative. And of course, for a couple of, for some investors out there, it's also that you sometimes take more than one sectoral or a thematic allocation in the portfolio. So the number of underperformers is also high. So definitely, I think for those who are in that kind of a situation, who do not have that kind of a time period now to give to the scheme and are looking to sort of trim their losses, there can be an exit, and that can be utilized for sort of setting off your losses against a gain that you've made during the financial year. But Mahima, let's say if you have an allocation where you feel that you're at the bottom of the cycle and you see decent potential in the coming times for that particular scheme sector overall, then probably I think you can still hold on to it and have that 3 to 5 year view ahead, because probably at the time when you enter, you always enter with a slightly longer term when we say that you're entering a thematic or a sectoral fund. So definitely that should be done. But if all of these allocations in your portfolio have increased your risk appetite, have increased overall risk of the portfolio, sorry, then definitely I think some of trimming should be done, and that can be useful in sort of adjusting your taxation as well. So overall, yes, but only if these situations are sort of suited, depending on investors' overall allocations.
Okay. Prableen, if somebody still wants to go ahead and invest in these thematic and sectoral funds, what should be the tactical allocation and how should one go about it?
Yeah, Mahima. So what we see that, for example, in the year 2025, out of the top 5 performers, we see that 3 of them are from the banking and financial services space, and 2 of them are from, auto-related sectors, and those sectors performed during this particular year. So whenever you're looking at a thematic or a sectoral allocation, I think the first rule is that, don't go overboard. So you have to sort of restrict that allocation to that, starting from, let's say, 5%, because less than 5% probably would not add anything meaningful to the portfolio. So you restrict it, starting with 5%, you go up to maximum 10 or 15, depending on your risk appetite. And then you should be also ready for the kind of falls which comes with these more concentrated allocations. Because let's say, Mahima, in the last 1 year, we saw that these, the auto sector, the funds from SBI and HDFC did very well. They gave us 22-24% returns. But also when the fall happened from September 2024 till March and April of 2025, the falls were double of what Nifty had fallen. So Nifty had fallen by roughly 15%, and these particular schemes had fallen by almost 30%. So number one, the sectoral allocation or thematic allocation, whenever you're taking, you have to be prepared for higher risk. The allocation should be a little less. You should be sure about when you're entering, how you want to do it a staggered manner, and then when are you going to exit. So I think the exit points are very, very crucial in these themes. And I think lastly, don't follow or chase the past returns. Probably the opposite sort of needs to be done, especially in terms of sectors and themes.
And as you just mentioned, a lot of these are usually, in terms of how these investment grow, is that they're contra investment ideas. If somebody is looking at these sectors, do you think it makes sense that sectors that have likely hit bottom in terms of where the earnings cycles stand, those are the sectors that will pick up in 2026, and that's how you go about it? Does that at all make sense?
Yeah, so ideally, the best case scenario is that you have something which is currently beaten down and has the earnings potential. So that's sort of the sweet spot. But it's not easy to, I think, sort of detect and find those places because whenever we see that probably something is beaten down, although it may have the potential to go up, the comfort with investors is not there because the past returns look quite horrid at that point. So something which has been down, let's say 20-30%, sometimes investors don't find comfort there. But definitely that ideally should be the case, that there is something which is at a decent valuation and has the earnings potential. That is the best case scenario. And I think for, in the coming year, because we've seen a lot of changing themes overall during 2025 and even in 2026, the way we've started with so much, I think, drama on the geopolitical scenario. We've just had some news on the trade deal today. With so much happening, I think investors would ideally be better off going with more broad-based themes. And within, if they're looking at something within the thematic and sectoral space, I think then you can go with the flexi caps of the thematics, which is like a business cycle fund or something more broad based, which is at least covering 3 to 4 sectors. I think that can be a better call unless and until you're a very high risk taker and you're okay with taking those bets in your portfolio.
All right, just one last question and a quick one for you, probably with regards to where the metal space is concerned, because right now I think that is the theme that a lot of people are interested in. The crazy rally that silver and gold has seen, and then followed by a rally in copper, is something that we've seen constantly. And on the back of that, a lot of these stocks that are related to gold, silver, and copper have seen a significant amount of rally. Any particular mutual fund that tracks this theme? Do you think it still makes sense to maybe go ahead and foray into those thematic funds?
Okay. So, Mahima, I think, we've really received this query many times this year that is there in 2025, that is there a copper fund? So currently we have allocations via gold and silver in mutual funds. And I think gold can be your long-term story for your portfolio. So even with a portfolio which is 10, 15 years ahead, you can definitely have allocation to gold. And that should be there because it also gives us some hedge against the depreciating rupee. Silver, I think, has to be the tactical call. We've again, witnessed a lot of investors wanting us to invest huge chunks in silver. At these levels, although we've come up with all these reports that there is huge potential for silver, there is, increasing demand, shortage of supply, but I think there should be caution applied at such times when prices have really, really gone up. So if you're looking to take allocation, do it in a little staggered manner. And if you're looking at commodities beyond, then we have the commodities fund because there the share prices are reflective of the price movement, but not always necessarily. So that's a little tricky combination, Mahima. So I feel for investors who are looking at anything in the commodities, stick to gold and silver. Gold for the long-term part of your portfolio, silver for the tactical. And I think for the other metal space, we do have the commodities funds. But again, it would be a little tricky if you're doing it, if you're sure you want to enter at these levels. Although commodity covers other spaces, sectors as well, such as cement, chemicals, there's a lot of other stuff as well.
Yeah.
But then you have to dive deeper and deeper and, take a call there.
All right, makes complete sense. Praveen, thank you so much for giving us those insights with regards to where thematic and sectoral funds are concerned. I'm sure that this has helped our audience a lot. So thank you so much for taking out the time and speaking with us at NDTV Profit. All right, viewers, that brings us to the end of this edition of Your Money Matters. But do stay tuned. More news and updates on the other side.